Amzindeme Namange Buimani Namange Buinkite Tisale Kanina Wapinye Amzindeme Takenge Stonzamana Yum se wa ulawoto Ton zamana tana kwibo Dancing baby Madam Sanam Pamko Lilla Bam Ken Wusro Koma Pang Lebrato Pamato Nabe Tukuyani Tondebeo Koma Pang Lebra Yel Salma Koma Pang Lebrato Zamana Tabumbe Belundo Salebe Kom Kaye Koma Tana Minungo Zamana Tabumbe Belundo Salebe Kom Kaye Koma Tana Minungo Mamiera biuro Ton talwe wakeba Sachinga yatro Koma pang wate ato Wo Kwil sa wa kwi Koma na yi wanto to Ton sankate mzudo Koma pang wate ato Zamana tabumbe Belundo Salebe Kom Kaye Koma Tana Minungo Zamana tabumbe Belundo Salebe Kom Kaye Koma Tana Minungo Zamana tabumbe Belundo Salebe Kom Kaye Koma Tana Minungo. Merci beaucoup, Barkousro.
tous. Soyez les bienvenus en Côte d'Ivoire. Nous sommes très heureux d'accueillir la COP 15 chez nous en Côte d'Ivoire. C'est un événement exceptionnel et nous sommes fiers de notre vivant de voir cet événement passer dans notre pays. C'est pas tous les jours qu'un pays accueille une COP. Merci à tous et nous espérons qu'ensemble, nous allons nous lutter contre la désertification partout dans le monde afin que l'environnement soit protégé. Merci à tous. DJ, est-ce qu'on peut
On a vu nos parents lutter pour améliorer notre quotidien. Le progrès s'était consommé, on a même lancé des fusées pour toujours plus loin. Inconscient du prix à payer, car juste sous nos pieds, le terrain abîmé. Aujourd'hui les temps ont changé, car même l'eau va manquer, même l'eau va manquer. Il faut nous rassembler, il faut se rassembler. Chacun doit changer, chacun peut changer. Il faut se libérer, nous réinventer. Même l'eau va manquer, même l'eau va manquer. Un seul besoin, une seule envie, préserver la vie et le genre humain. Les rivières ne font plus de bruit, il y a du poison dans la pluie qui arrive au loin. Toutes nos forces réunies de tous les pays se donnent dans la mer. Avoir raison de cette folie du monde aujourd'hui, je me mène à rien. Il faut nous rassembler, il faut se rappeler, chacun doit changer, chacun doit changer. Il faut se libérer, nous réinventer, même l'eau va manquer, même l'eau va manquer. Nous rassembler, il faut s'entraider, chacun doit changer, chacun doit changer. Il faut se libérer, nous réinventer, même l'eau va manquer, même l'eau va manquer. Il faut se rappeler, chacun doit changer, chacun doit changer. Il faut se libérer, nous réinventer, même l'eau va manquer, même l'eau va manquer.
Pour rassembler, il faut s'entraider. Chacun doit changer, chacun peut changer.
Magic System, avec le bleu.
Merci beaucoup. Merci. Merci beaucoup.
Tu es venu t'arrêter là-bas. Ça là, ça.
C'est qui en fait? Tout à l'heure, il y a certains. Les chaises sont là placées derrière le menu souvent. Et c'est très chaud.
Micro 1.
On va tester le micro là, que ça ne marche pas.
Ouais, ça va marcher. Ça passe Bon, on mange, hein. Oui, moi j'ai faim.
Si tu m'entends. Test, ça passe pas, hein. Ça passe pas.
Bon, il dit ça passe pas. Comment ça passe pas? T'as pu Yannick.
Test, il n'y a pas de son. On vient encore ouvrir le son.
Ça passe.
Test. Il n'y a pas de son ici, ça passe.
Non. Ouvrez le son.
Ça tunnel, hein?
Voilà, tu m'entends?
Test, micro, test. Tu m'entends?
Oui, je t'entends.
Bob, tu m'entends?
Oui, Bob t'entend.
Si, micro 1. On teste le micro 2. Test, micro 2.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 3.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 4.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 5.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 6.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 7.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 8.
Oui, c'est bon.
Test, micro 9.
C'est toujours bon.
Test, micro 10.
Ça reste bon.
Test, micro 11.
Toujours bon.
Micro 12.
Même ça, c'est bon.
Cool.
C'est le podium. Micro 13. Oui, c'est bon. C'est toujours beau. C'est encore beau. Ça reste beau. C'est toujours beau. Et encore beau. Je suis en train de tout manger. Merci. Ça va, c'est pour toi. Hein.
Me sentiré.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished delegate, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the first meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the 15th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United National Convention to Combat Desertification.
For them to hear.
Introductory remark.
No. You just read.
Okay. Let me say at the outset that it's an honor to share the work of the Community of the Whole. I look forward to working closely with each and every one of you to ensure that we can complete all work assigned to the community and report the results back to the COP next week. Let us endeavor to manage prudently the large number of items on the agenda and the limited time available to us. I therefore encourage facilitators of the various contact groups to pay attention to the management of the process to allow for a timely conclusion of the negotiation.
Start here, no?
Distinguished delegate, as you may recall, the Conference of the Parties adopted this morning its agenda for the 15th session of the Conference of the Parties as contained in document ICCD/COP15/1 and the tentative schedule of work contained in the annex of the same document. Paragraph 16 of the annotation to the agenda-led issues that have been allowed to the Community of the Whole. This encompasses items 2, including its sub-items, and D, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. I would like to bring to the attention of the Community one amendment to order of consideration of the agenda items. Given the importance for parties to reach an agreement as early as possible during this session on the COP16 current date, as this is directly connected to the program and budget be adopted. It is proposed that the one code meeting to also consider the agenda item 7, procedure matter subtain C, program of work for the 16th session of the Conference of the Parties. May I take is that the community agrees with this proposal. Having no option, it is so decided. I now invite the community to turn its attention to the establishment to content groups and the appointment of the facilitator of this contact group. The Bureau proposed the establishment of 2 content groups of the committee. Contact Group 1 on item 6, program and budget, include the agenda sub-items. A, program and budget for the biennium 2022-2023. B, financial performance for the Convention Trust Fund. C, report of the Evaluation Office. Contact Group 2 on COW matters other than program and budget, including under agenda item 2, UNCCD 2018-2030 strategic framework, the following sub-items. B, review of progress in the implementation of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification Communication Plan and the United Nations Decade for Desert and the Fight Against Desertification 2010-2020, and follow up on the Minister evaluation of the UNCCD 2018-2030 strategic framework. Item 3, promotion and strengthening of relationship with other relevant convention and international organization, institution, and agencies. Item 4, policy frameworks and thematic issues. Item 7, produced matter, including the following sub-items. A, participation and involvement of civil society organization in meeting and process of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. B, participate and involvement of the private sector in meeting in process of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and the business engagement strategy. C, program of work for the 16th session of the Conference of the Parties. It also may understand that the following colleges have been proposed as facilitators for these contact groups. Mr. Stephanie Paylors of France have been proposed as facilitator of the core contact group 1 on program and budget, and Mr. Amel Abdelhadi of Egypt have been proposed as facilitator of the core contact group 2 on other matters. May I take it that the community wishes to establish the contact group as proposed by the Bureau and appoint the reversed facilitator for the core contact groups 1 and 2 as I have just announced. Hearing no objection, it is so decided. Okay. Distinguished delegate, I now invite the committee to begin its consideration of agenda item 7, sub-item C, program of work for the 16th session of the Conference of the Parties, for which the committee has before it document ICTD/COP15/CRP.1. I now give the floor to the Deputy Executive Secretary of the UNCCD to introduce these agenda items. Mr. Andrea Mesa Murillo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. Good evening. One of the last items of each COP has been to decide on the date and venue of the following COP. This has been a fast and easy decision, as Article 22 of the UNCCD gives clear guidance on the matter. It states that unless otherwise decided by the COP, the ordinary sessions of the COP should be held every 2 years. This 15th session of the COP was expected to be organized in 2021, but as you all know, it had to be postponed to 2022 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In this exceptional situation, we may read Article 2022 in two different ways for the scheduling of COP16. One, COP16 is organized in the late 2023, which will mean that the usual cycle of organizing the COPs in odd-numbered years will be maintained. Or the second option, COP16 is organized in 2024, which will be taking Article 22 literally. Next COP is held 2 years after COP15. To facilitate parties' consideration on this matter, the Secretariat analyzed the implications of both options, as presented in document ICCD/COP15/CRP.1/REV.1. The Secretariat found, in short, that both 2023 and 2024 are feasible as the scheduling of COP16, and both also have advantages and disadvantages. Organizing the COP in 2023 will not require any procedural or planning changes, but proximity to COP15 will limit the substantive scope and the scale of some agenda items and activities. Setting the COP16 date to 2024 will provide ample time for a true delivery of all intersessional assignments while requiring adjustments to the financial rules and the schedule of the midterm evaluation. Knowing that this matter has been discussed in depth in the consultations among the regional and interest groups and also considered at the COP Bureau, I will not go into further details of the document, but I will be ready to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
I thank Mr. Mesa Murillo for her presentation. I now open the floor for any statement in connection with the report that was just introduced. Speakers are requested to keep the statement brief and concise so that I can give the floor to as many speakers as possible until the end of this afternoon meeting. I'll take all comments and then give the floor to the Secretariat to respond. Delegate wishing to take the floor are invited to press the button.
I propose that further.
I see there are no requests to the vote. I propose the further discussion of these issues to take place of the code.
I don't know if there is a request. I don't know if there is.
Dominican Republic, please.
Ok. Bueno, Gracias por la oportunidad y felicito a Guatemala por el honor de ser el presidente de tan importante foro. Me siento muy orgullosa de ello. Entonces, respecto al punto específico de decidir la fecha para la próxima COP, que entiendo es lo que vamos a discutir ahora, consideramos que la Convención de Naciones Unidas, tal como dije en el GRULAC anoche, tiene un componente humano importante. La Convención trabaja con personas, con procesos, con territorios. Y si queremos tener una COP rica y sustancial, deberíamos tener el suficiente tiempo para que esos procesos se den y tener sustancia importante. Entonces, para esos fines, me parece que quizás podría ser en 2024. Como país, República Dominicana así lo entiende. Muchísimas gracias.
Thanks. Dominga. Are there any delegates wishing to take the floor on this issue? I see any other request to the floor? Okay. Yes, China, please.
感谢主席先生。中方支持方案2，就是在2024年举行第16届缔约方大会，这样与会各方能够有更加充分的时间完成本次会议举行的任务。谢谢主席。
Thank you, China. Please, Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, please.
المجموعة الآسيوية يوم 7 و8 اجتماع إقليمي تشاوري، وكان هنالك إجماع من جميع الدول الآسيوية على الخيار الثاني وهو 2024، وبينا وجهة نظرنا في اجتماع مكتب مؤتمر الأطراف الذي تم قبل يومين. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you. Namibia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Namibia speaking on behalf of the African Group. We had extensive consultations in our group. Unfortunately, we could not come to a conclusion. Mr. Chairperson, whilst I'm appreciating this opportunity, we would like the Secretariat to kindly prepare, when we get to the contact group of this particular discussions, to assist us in order to present challenges that may arise in the different options that has been given. What has been presented to us under the document ICCD COP 15 CRP 1/Ref1 gives us the possible options and lightly touch on the challenges. It does not go into the particular challenges that we may face if we have to change the COP from a biennium to a triennium, just to mention one example. How will that affect the negotiations starting from today, and how will we move forward? So as an African group, we would really want proper analysis in terms of both options, not only on the legal, procedural, and financial aspects. We would like to go into detail with regards to the midterm evaluation, how that's going to impact not only on international level, but also on our national levels with regards to concerns. And then Africa will then be able to come forward with whatever we think would be suitable for us as a region. But we stand flexible to agree to whatever will be suitable for us to effectively implement this convention, not only for hosting, but for implementing in the interim period. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namibia.
Australia.
Australia, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies. Australia, on behalf of the Just Cairns Group, is happy to say that we have consensus for 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia.
The Secretariat to respond.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's Satu, it's not
Okay.
Secretariat to have the floor.
Thank you. I give the floor to the representative of the Secretariat to respond to the question and comment from the floor. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, distinguished delegates. The Secretariat will be very pleased to provide any information available that can assist the Africa Regional Group to come to a decision. In fact, we already scheduled another meeting with the Africa team tomorrow morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretariat. I propose, yes.
Who is it?
Can you press the button, please? Your opinion, please.
Merci Monsieur le Président de me donner la parole. Et tout d'abord, toutes mes félicitations pour votre nomination. Mesdames et Messieurs, j'ai l'honneur de prononcer cette déclaration au nom de l'Union européenne et de ses États membres. Concernant la programmation de la COP16, l'Union européenne et ses États membres remercient le secrétariat d'avoir publié des informations générales présentant les implications des options d'une tenue de la COP16 en 2023 ou en 2024. Ces documents permettent d'évaluer les deux options en tenant compte des conséquences juridiques et budgétaires ainsi que de l'impact potentiel sur les points de l'ordre du jour. L'Union européenne remercie également le travail préliminaire qui a été effectué par le bureau de la COP sur ce sujet. L'Union européenne et ses États membres reconnaissent que les deux options sont envisageables selon la lecture de l'article 22 de la Convention. L'Union européenne et ses États membres souhaitent donc exprimer leur soutien à l'option consistant à organiser la COP16 au cours du second semestre 2023. L'Union européenne et ses États membres sont bien conscients que cette option a des implications importantes pour les travaux des organes subsidiaires de la Convention. L'Union européenne et ses États membres reconnaissent que la fixation de la COP16 en 2023 a des implications pour les travaux de l'interface politique scientifique, dont une partie est renouvelée après chaque COP. L'interface science-politique disposera ainsi de moins de temps pour travailler sur les questions couvertes par les différents rapports, puisque les nouveaux membres du SPI auront 1 an pour s'organiser et mener à bien leurs travaux. Toutefois, l'Union européenne et ses États membres tiennent à souligner l'importance de l'évaluation à mi-parcours du cadre stratégique 2018-2030. Cette évaluation, dont les termes de référence seront définitivement adoptés lors de la COP16 et dont les résultats seront présentés lors de la COP17, s'inscrit dans une vision plus globale portée par l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies. Si la COP16 se tient en 2023, il restera encore 5 ans du cadre stratégique 2018-2030 de la CNULD, donc d'une durée de 12 ans, pour mettre en œuvre les recommandations de l'évaluation et ainsi renforcer la mise en œuvre de la Convention en cohérence avec le calendrier des autres ODD et l'agenda des institutions financières internationales comme le FEM, le Fonds mondial pour l'environnement. Si la COP16 se tient en 2024 et la COP17 en 2026, seulement 4 années seront disponibles pour cette révision. En outre, la tenue de la COP en 2024 nécessiterait de modifier les règles budgétaires puisque les règles financières de la COP prévoient que l'exercice financier est un exercice biennal dont la première année civile est une année paire. Si la COP16 se tient en 2024, la décision budgétaire devra couvrir une période de 3 ans et nécessitera une décision de la COP pour modifier les règles financières. Afin de procéder comme prévu à la programmation de l'évaluation à mi-parcours du cadre stratégique 2018-2030 et d'éviter les ajustements des règles financières de la COP, l'Union européenne et ses États membres réitèrent leur soutien à la programmation de la COP au second semestre 2023. Nous vous remercions pour votre attention.
Thank you, estimado delegate. Any other requests to the floor? Okay. Mexico, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, por la palabra. Mis felicitaciones a Guatemala y a usted por su nombramiento. Y como México vemos con buenos ojos llevar la COP al periodo de 2024 para darnos la oportunidad de estar al corriente con las metas nacionales voluntarias para neutralizar la degradación de las tierras. Tenemos también preparativos para el informe nacional y otros proyectos. Apoyamos lo dicho por nuestra colega de República Dominicana. Esto es un proceso que requiere tiempo para que sea también un resultado mucho más sólido. Pensamos que tras la pandemia debemos contemplar los retos que enfrentamos en nuestro país y es por eso nuestra declaración en ese sentido. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, México. Gracias, México, por el comentario. Any other? Any other more requests? Yes. Belarus, please.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы только бы хотели отметить то, что вопрос выбора, в каком году проводить следующий КОП, связан с процессом отчетности. И нам хотелось бы получить больше времени для того, чтобы эту отчетность подготовить, и чтобы у секретариата было время должным образом эту отчетность проанализировать. И отчетность должна быть подготовлена как можно более качественно. Именно тогда мы получим точную, достоверную информацию, которая позволит нам определять наши дальнейшие действия. И в данной связи мы бы хотели поддержать проведение КОП-16 в 2024 году. Спасибо.
Thank you, estimado delegate. Is any other request for the floor? I propose that further discussion in this issue to take place in the Code Context Group 1 in order to allow the community to take action on the corresponding program and budget. Hearing no objection, it's so decided. With regard to the program of work for the 16th session of the COP, I urge the Contact Group 2 to begin its deliberation and conclude then in a timely manner in order to allow the committee to act on this issue at its final plenary meeting. Distinguished delegate, we have thus concluded the general discussion of sub-item 7Z. I now invite the committee to begin its consideration of agenda item 6 entitled Program and Budget and its sub-item 8 Program and Budget for the biennium 2022-2023 and B Financial Performance for the Convention Trust Funds, for which the committee has before in the following documents ICCD/COP15/5 to 10. Documents ICCD/CRIC 20/2 and 3, and document ICCD COP15/21. And now, give the floor to the representative of the UNCCD Secretariat to introduce the reports on the two sub-items. Mr. Lindo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Secretariat has prepared the documents before you responding to Decision 10, COP 14, and Decision 1 of the second extraordinary session of the COP, which includes a proposal for the program and budget for the biennium 2022 to 2023 and the multi-year work plan from 2022 to 2025. The budget proposal comprises one scenario for zero nominal growth, as well as a scenario with recommended adjustments, the latter of which represents a 2.7% increase when compared with the previous biennium to support, in part, the important work on drought. The proposal also contains suggestions to set aside funds for after-service health insurance and the establishment of the Drought Resilience Accelerator from unspent funds. The Secretariat looks forward to further discussions with parties on the budget and these issues in the course of the week. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Lindo for his statement. I would like now to open the floor in connection with the reports that were just introduced of item 6, sub-item A and B. Speaker, I request to keep statements brief and consist to that I can give the floor to as many speakers as possible until the end of this afternoon meeting. I will take all comments and then give the floor to the Secretariat to respond. Delegate wishing to take the floor are invited to press the button. Your opinion, please.
No.
Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The European Union and its member states thank the Secretariat for the preparation of the comprehensive multi-year work plan for the Convention for the years 2022-2025 and two-year costed work program for the Convention for years 2022-2023. We note that 1/3 of the period covered by the UNCCD 2018-2030 strategic framework has passed. In this context, we appreciate that the commitment to land degradation neutrality is being translated into concrete voluntary targets. We also welcome targeted guidance for ensuring gender responsiveness in the plans and projects, and we are happy to see that similar guidance is under preparation for land tenure matters. It is also crucial that the comprehensive multi-year work plan contains important interlinkages to the work of the science policy interface. Furthermore, we consider it important that effective action on drought is reflected as another priority for the next years in the comprehensive multi-year work plan. The European Union and its member states appreciate the work of the Secretariat in preparing the two budget scenarios in line with the last COP decision on the budget. We are looking forward to the upcoming deliberation and stand ready to contribute constructively to the negotiations based on the Secretariat's documents. The European Union and its member states continue to highlight that the effective work of the trust funds is a key vehicle to implement effectively the work programs of the different bodies of the UNCCD. We also support the UNCCD Evaluations Office independent work
as an important mechanism in developing and improving the activities of the UNCCDs. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, estimate delegate. Please, China.
谢谢主席。首先感谢秘书处及相关参与方为此次议题所付出的努力。中方想强调，去年年底在联合国会费摊款比例调整前，公约召开缔约方大会第2次特别会议，专门就2022年会费议题进行磋商。上述会议通过决议，缔约方2022年会费缴纳的比例与2021年相比维持不变。中方注意到，在本次缔约方大会关于预算的决议草案中，关于2022年会费缴纳比例的问题再次出现。中方认为，2022年会费缴纳问题，包括缴费比例等内容均为已决事项，不应在本次缔约方大会上重复讨论。本次缔约方大会应讨论2023年会费预算。另外，如果第16次缔约方大会有可能在2024年召开的话，也应同时考虑2024年预算问题。另外，中方原则认可公约秘书处、全球机制等公约附属机构在2020-2021年克服疫情所开展的各项工作以及取得的成绩，欢迎并鼓励秘书处与有意愿的缔约国一道，联合开展线上宣传、纪念和相关能力建设活动。谢谢主席。
Thank you, China. Please, Namibia.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me again to take the floor. Namibia is speaking on behalf of the African Group. Africa would like to thank the Secretariat for its preparation of 2 budget scenarios for the consideration of this conference of the parties. Mr. President, Africa has received and noted these scenarios, and this document that presents an overview of the proposed program budget of the UNCCD for the biennium 2022-2023, and is ready to engage on these particular proposals. Considering the updated assessment of progress towards the implementation of the strategic framework that has passed and the adoption of the documents that may be presented to us, Africa is deeply concerned that we are not on track to achieve some of the goals, particularly those ones highlighted under the drought initiatives. Therefore, the program of work we agree for this biennium, which represents the final 2 years we have to achieve some of these objectives, is particularly critical to Africa. Mr. President, the African Group have consistently expressed their principal position for an ambitious program of work and the need for a budget that will deliver on the program of work and give impetus to the achievements, concrete decisions on the issue of drought under this convention. We are standing ready to negotiate and engage on the way forward. It is our view that the program of work should be robust and reflect the high aspirations of the parties, and that the budget should be approved based on the provision and adequate resources sufficient for the effective implementation of the approved program of work. Mr. President, over the coming negotiations on the budget, we will need to carefully consider what combination of factors will allow us to deliver an impactful program of work that is implemented in the most effective and efficient manner possible. These factors will include, amongst others, the organizational structure, as some proposals have been made by the Secretariat, the scope and priorities of the program of work for implementation of the voluntary and core budgets of this convention. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, Africa notes and appreciate the presentations that were given and stand ready to negotiate in the contact group. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Brazil. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since my first participation in the session, I would like to wish productive and fruitful work for all of us on the coming days. Brazil thanks the Executive Secretariat for preparing document ICCD/COP15/6-ICCD/PRIC 20/2 and also document ICCD/COP15/5. And this last document, in line with decision 1 of the second extraordinary session of COP, this document presents 2 budget options for the liberation of the parties. The first option corresponds to zero nominal growth scenario, while the second option contemplates adjustments to the original scenario and their related added costs. Nevertheless, draft decision 5, which can be found at document ICCD/COP15/21, only contemplates budget option 2, precisely the one that foresees the judge's adjusted budget. And therefore, we would like the Secretariat to provide clarification on the reason why, when preparing draft decision 5, only one between the 2 options that parties must decide on has been considered. And in case it wasn't really necessary to contemplate only one scenario on the draft decision, we would like to ask clarification on why option 2 and not option 1 was selected. And we finally would like to express our firm support for the first budget option that provides for zero nominal growth. We must not forget that the severe effects of the pandemic that have been endured by all our countries, and most notably by developing countries in recent years. The context of post-pandemic recovery, hence, recommends utmost caution with regards any increase in expenses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Here.
Japan.
Thank you, Brazil. Japan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our is to seek zero nominal growth in the core budget of international organizations, including UNCCD. At the same time, additional resource requirements for operational aspects of UNCCD's work should be adequately covered by grant resources. In fact, Japan, as a top donor since the establishment of JEF, is a strong supporter to combat desertification, land degradation, and drought. Japan, along with the other donors, recently helped contribute toward the ambitious JEF aid replenishment in spite of the tough fiscal and economic landscape. We are happy to say that the land degradation focal area was a key beneficiary of this outcome. Land degradation was built into a substantially larger number of programs for JEF 8, more than tripling the number of associated large integrated programs. Specifically, with regard to drought, the theme was built into 5 key investment programs. Mr. President, turning to the issue of unspent funds from previous years, Japan is of the view that the primary consideration should be given to using such funds to offset future contributions. Transfer of funds to Drought Resilience Accelerator was approved at COP13 on an exceptional basis, and COP14 encouraged further funding through voluntary sources. Regarding after-service health insurance, ASI, UNCCD should be in line with the practice and decision of the UNGA, and we do not see the need to establish a special fund for ASI at this time. Japan would rather suggest raising the level of working capital reserve from 12% to 15% of annual budget in light of difficult economic and fiscal situations faced by many parties. Regarding the indicative scale, the most recent UN scale of assessment for 2022 to 2024, as decided by UNGA in December 2021, contained in A/Res/76/238 shall be applied to the indicative scale of contributions for UNCCD for 2022, which is in accordance with the financial rule modified by Decision 10 of COP14, which stipulate contribution made each year, quote, based on the most recent scale assessment of the United Nations as may be adopted by General Assembly, end quote. And necessary monetary adjustment should be made in 2023 contributions. This is simply to align UNCCD with UNFCCC, CCC, and CBD and other UN organizations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jovan. I see that Anigo has requests for the floor. Can you please state your affiliation?
Hello. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, my name is Omio Prapon Chakraborty, representing Dhruvotara Youth Development Foundation, Bangladesh. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of CSOs. Conventional trust fund is a very important asset for UNCCD. In line with the United Nations approach to result-based management, performance reporting is used to determine the actual progress made towards achieving expected accomplishment in comparison with commitments set out in the approved program's budget. Parties may wish to review achievements, outcomes, and performance of the convention trust funds in view of reality, expectation, practical actions, assessing the need. We want to urge, on behalf of the CSOs, the necessity of involving CSOs, young people, and other specialized groups' representation in implementation process of that fund. And we want to propose quarterly report generation to know the implementation details, cost analysis, and ensuring transparency, effective outcomes. Sir, we also emphasize on enhancing fund by proper contribution of parties and donors. Cost will increase coming days and more activities investment will require. So we want to request Secretariat to take special steps to ensure parties more contribution on that fund. In accordance with paragraph 17 of Decision 10/COP13, Executive Secretary is supposed to prepare a report on the methodology and practices regarding the scale of assessments for the apportionment of the expenses of the United Nations in order to review UNCCD financial rules. It is subsidiary bodies and the Convention Secretariat resources. Therefore, we believe that is the necessary to promote and strengthening economic activities such as the circular economy, the transformation processes of products based on nature, the bioeconomy, and the value chains integrated into the land regeneration and restoration through CSO's activities. And UNCCD's actions in coming days, so priority need to set for budget and allocation, and more financial support is required for a roadmap for drought resilience. Also need to ensure that the gender action plan is not a stand-alone, will get priority under the fund's initiatives. More support will require for youth-led initiatives and ensuring effective participation of indigenous community women. More initiatives need to plan for LDN activities, SPI initiatives, drought resilience. CSO's participation in co-processes need to enhance and more support will require. The UNCCD should continue to strengthen and enhance as well as forge new strategic partnerships at all levels, across sectors and with different public, private, civil society organizations. Specify vulnerable people, communities, LDCs should get priority, and more CSOs engagement will require under that fund for achieving mandate and coming program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, estimated delegate.
No.
No.
This one, to respond.
Okay.
I give the floor to the representative of the Secretariat to respond to the question and comments from the floor.
Thank you. I think most of these comments that have been made so far would be taken in the context of the contact group for program and budget, but I just wanted to respond to one, and that is with regard to the draft decision that was provided to parties in the compendium of draft decisions. That text is a draft, and I think you'll notice that it includes no tables, nothing on the staffing table, nothing on the commitments or the appropriations that would be adopted by the Conference of the Parties. It is just a draft. And again, that's a document that would be discussed, negotiated by the parties, and we would adjust that text as you wish. So just to say that. Again, I think it's best to take these discussions into the contact group, and we can provide all the information, answer all the questions starting tonight. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Lindo for his statement. We have thus concluded the general discussion of sub-item 6A and B. Distinguished delegate, I now invite the committee to begin consideration of agenda item 6 sub-item C, entitled Report of the Evaluation Office, for which the committee has before it documents ICCD/COP15/11 and ICCD/COP15/21. I give the floor to the representative of the UNCCD Secretariat to introduce the report under this sub-item. Mr. Satu Rabola, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. And good afternoon, distinguished delegates. The UNCCD Secretariat and the Global Mechanism are requested to regularly evaluate their activities by the United Nations regulations and rules governing program aspects of the budget. And this is also the standard procedure for many donors. Accordingly, since 2014, selected activities concerning the Secretariat and the GM have been methodically evaluated by independent experts, and the evaluation reports are briefly presented to the COP under this sub-agenda item on the program and budget. The aim of the UNCCD evaluations is primarily to support internal learning of the Secretariat and the GM for improved effectiveness and efficiency. The evaluations are an important part of managing by results. They also seek to contribute to the transparency of work carried out under the UNCCD and to the accountability of the Secretariat and the GM. Since the last session of the COP, 5 evaluations were commissioned by the UNCCD Evaluation Office as follows. The evaluation of the Secretariat's New York Liaison Office, which was completed in June 2020. A study of the UNCCD business sector engagement was completed in January 2021. This study included an evaluation of the business sector engagement and, building on the findings of the evaluation, the development of elements for a new business sector engagement strategy. The evaluation of the UNCCD support to the development of land degradation neutrality, transformative projects and programs was completed in February 2021. The second evaluation of the Changwon initiative was completed in April 21. And lastly, the evaluation of the drought initiative was completed in March 2022. In addition to the mentioned evaluations, an internal participatory gender audit was carried out. You will find the full evaluation reports together with the management responses on the UNCCD website under the section on the Evaluation Office. And I will not go into the details now. Let me only mention briefly that building on evidence-based independent analysis, these evaluations generally confirm that the Secretariat and the GM have, for the most part, performed well and generated good results on the topics that were evaluated. Of course, all evaluations also identify areas in which improvements are needed and suggest potential measures to bring on such improvements. The Secretariat and the GM continue to carefully study the evaluation findings and recommendations and to use them to further improve their effectiveness and efficiency. Many findings and recommendations of the evaluations are, in fact, reflected in COP documents on the topics in concern. Let me go back to the report of the Evaluation Office. In that document, you will also find an outline of the work program of the Evaluation Office for the coming years. Please note that, as usual, this outline is only indicative and may be subject to changes. Let me take this opportunity to inform you that we will again carry out a participant survey at the end of this COP. This means that close to the end of next week, we will distribute a questionnaire on different aspects of this COP and ask you kindly to fill it in with the aim to hear directly from you what has worked well and what has not. As some of you may remember, we did this participant survey for the first time at COP14, and your feedback has been very helpful for us in the preparations for this conference. You may note some changes, particularly in the substantive documentation and in the general information provided prior to the COP on the organization work as well as the logistics. So we very much hope that you will again give some of your time to respond to the questionnaire. Finally, many of you present here today have participated in the evaluations one way or another. So let me conclude by thanking you cordially for taking the time and sharing your knowledge and views. It has been indeed very much appreciated and most valuable for the further development of the quality of the work of the Secretariat and the GM. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Rabola for her statement. I would like now to open the floor in connection with the report that was just introduced on item 6, sub-item C. Speaker, I request to keep statements brief and concise so that I can give the floor to as many speakers as possible until the end of this afternoon meeting. I will take all the comments and then give the floor to the Secretariat to respond. Delegate wishing to take the floor are invited to press the button. I see no requests for the floor. Thus conclude the general discussion of sub-items 6C and of agenda item 6 as a whole. I propose that further discussion of these items in their totality be taken up in contact group 1. Hearing no objection, it's all decided. I now invite the committee to consider agenda item 4 entitled Policy Frameworks and Thematic Issues. Delegate will recall that this agenda item includes the consideration of the following issues: drought, migration, gender, sand and dust storms, and land tenure. The committee will now proceed to review each of these issues one by one. I now invite the committee to turn its attention to the issue of drought. Under this issue, the committee has before it the following documents: ICCD/COP15/15, ICCD/COP1520, and ICCD/COP15/21. I now give the floor to the representative of the Secretariat to introduce the document ICCD/COP15/15. Mr. Daniel Senagi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates. By its decision 23/COP14, the Conference of the Parties requested the Secretariat to report on the implementation of this decision and to follow up at its 15th session. By the same decision, parties established an intergovernmental working group on effective policy and implementation measures for addressing drought under the UNCCD, with a view to presenting its findings and recommendations to parties for their consideration at COP15. Document ICCD/COP15/15 reviews the progress made towards fulfilling the requests contained in Decision 23/COP14. It presents a summary of the results achieved within the framework of the drought initiative and other relevant drought-related activities of the UNCCD Secretariat and the global mechanism. This document also provides an overview of the emerging UNCCD drought agenda, including key points of the IWG report and the SPI recommendations. The content is presented under 5 interlinked areas: drought policies, early warning, monitoring and assessment, knowledge sharing and learning, partnerships and coordination, and drought finance. Particular attention is given to the specific challenges related to the impacts of drought on vulnerable communities, ecosystems, and communities, including the COVID pandemic and its interaction with drought. This document also proposes a plan of action for the next steps in addressing drought under the UNCCD based on the lessons learned during the current biennium. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel, for your statement. Estimated delegate, I now give the floor to the chair of the Intergovernmental Working Group on Effective Police Implementation Measure for Addressing Drought under the UNCCD to introduce the document ICCD/COP15/20 under the issue drought. Dr. Regina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, document 1 CCD COP 15/20 presents the findings of the recommendations of the IWG. Concludes an overview of IWG, a stock taking of policies, and a review of options based on submissions received from the parties and other stakeholders and IWG discussions. The IWG's discussions have drawn attention to the under-recognized potential of land-based interventions to prepare for drought and mitigation and mitigating its impact, risks, and negative feedback loops due to their integration with other economic, environmental, social, and health-related issues. This necessitates a holistic approach to underwrite and enable the commitments of the established global agendas for adaptation and mitigation of extreme climate change events, disaster risk reductions, and the green economic recovery, including for the most vulnerable communities and ecosystems. The IWG's main findings underlines the ongoing improvements under existing arrangements, the need for a holistic approach to partnerships that gives consideration to ongoing changes affecting both land and climate conditions. The continuing discussion on the need for and potential arrangements for the UNCCD to provide leadership on the interlinked global agenda on land and drought. The increasing recognition of the opportunities for the UNCCD to transform drought risks through an integrated approach to land as the basis for accelerating progress towards global development targets and agendas. That overcoming negative drought effects due to both climate and land use changes must entail a continuous and adaptive learning process at all levels, including leadership and the global level, and good practices to enable ground throwing. Finally, the document presents a set of 8 immediate steps that are recommended by the Intergovernmental Working Group for the draft of decisions and actions by the parties at COP15. Draft elements for a decision on drought are contained in document ICCD/COP parenthesis 15 parenthesis /21 for the consideration of the parties. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Doctor, for your statement. I would now like to open the floor for any statements in connection with the 2 reports that were just introduced. Speakers, I request to keep statements brief and concise so that I can give the floor to as many speakers as possible. Ukraine, please. Yes, please.
Your Excellency, Mr. Dunwahi, President of COP15, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to deliver this statement on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The EU and its member states see drought as a priority issue of global relevance. The drought phenomenon has been increasingly global in frequency, length, and severity due to climate change and other human-induced factors, such as changes in land and water management. The EU and its member states acknowledge that droughts are closely linked to other environmental challenges, such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation.
They also have implications on food security, poverty, migrations, and health. In order to counterbalance the increasing impacts of droughts and their interactions with other economical, social, and environmental problems, the EU and its member states consider key to strengthen the resilience of vulnerable ecosystems, communities, and economies to drought. The EU highlights the need to fully realize the potential of land-based interventions under the umbrella of the concept of nature-based solutions. This not only to contribute to mitigate the threats of droughts and to manage drought risks, but also strengthens the resilience of communities and ecosystems, allowing refocusing actions on proactive drought management. Healthy soils and healthy lands also provide a buffer on times of drought. By promoting effective early warning and action systems, monitoring and risk impact approaches, we will enable to assess the resilience of ecosystems and vulnerable populations, as well as to design concrete measures to reduce drought risks. This is key to adopt the proactive, risk-based approach to drought management. Drought is a global phenomenon and requires global response. The EU and its member states strongly support the UNCCD to strengthen and to forge new strategic partnerships at all levels, across all sectors, and with all stakeholders, particularly women, youth, indigenous people, and local communities, but also civil society and the private sector. The EU and its member states strongly support to further enhance coordination and collaboration with multiple partners. Efforts must continue to be done to increase UN cooperation and to strengthen the effectiveness of the multilateral system, utilizing existing mechanisms, clarifying respective mandates and responsibilities of relevant actors with the aim to avoid duplications. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Estimate Delegate. I see no more requests for the floor. With that, we have concluded the general discussion. Sorry?
Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, por darme una nueva oportunidad. En este tema tan relevante como es la sequía, República Dominicana quisiera refrescar y recordar el proceso que ha habido en los países a nivel mundial y en particular en la región latinoamericana respecto a los planes de sequía. Muchos países tenemos planes de sequía elaborados y quisiéramos solamente llamar la atención sobre la necesidad de implementación de dichos planes, para lo cual queremos llamar la atención sobre la necesidad de que haya financiamiento y apoyo a los países que han elaborado su plan. Quisiera también felicitar y sumarme a la declaración de la Unión Europea. Me parece excelente sobre la necesidad de ser proactivos en el tema de sequía y enfatizar la necesidad de los sistemas de alerta temprana. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Estimate Delegate.
China.
Please, China.
谢谢主席再次给予发言机会。中方支持联合国防治荒漠化公约科技委向缔约方会议所提出的相关倡议和建议，积极推进各缔约方对干旱问题的主动回应。中方在干旱风险综合管理方面积累了丰富的经验和技术，已经建立了可以稳定运行的干旱预警预测系统，愿在力所能及的范围内，为各缔约方在完善干旱监测系统等方面提供可能的帮助。谢谢主席。
Thank you, Estimate Delegate. Please, Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor once again. Brazil has some doubts about document 15, but I'm quite sure that we'll be able to solve them during the contact group meetings. Drought is a topic that's particularly important to our country, given that our territory includes areas that have been historically and severely affected by this phenomenon, such as the so-called drought polygony, the most populous semi-arid region on the planet. Brazil, therefore, has been dealing with drought and its impacts on land and on people since long. And based on our experience on this issue, we call your special attention to the dimensions of resilience and adaptation of both people and ecosystems when dealing with drought. These are the dimensions that can change the lives of millions of people for better, as well as allow ecosystems to survive in so dire conditions. Moreover, while we commend the results achieved under the UNCCD drought initiative, we emphasize that efforts need to be increased with a view to provide developing countries with the technological and human training that are crucial to adequately mitigate the effects of drought. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Uganda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And since this is my first time to take the floor, I wish on my own behalf and my delegation and on behalf of the Africa Group, I would like to extend the appreciation to the government and the people of Cote d'Ivoire for the warm hospitality and reception extended to our delegations since our arrival in this beautiful city of Abidjan. I would like to also congratulate you, Mr. Chair, upon assuming the chair of the CAO, and also confirm that our group is prepared to work with you during COP15. I would like also to say that I'm making this statement on behalf of the African group, and I would like to say that the special report on drought 2021 highlights the climate change is increasing in the frequency, severity, and duration, and in many regions across the world, and really further call for attention to respond effectively to the significant risk posed by drought. Mr. Chair, the Africa Group welcomes the recommendations and conclusions by the Intergovernmental Working Group on Drought, which provide a good basis and building block for appropriate action towards an effective policy on drought. We equally thank the UNCCD Secretariat for implementing the drought initiative. Mr. Chair, since COP13, we have welcomed a number of initiatives on drought, including first the drought toolbox and the drought initiative that supported parties to develop national drought plans. Similarly, at COP15, a new initiative, the Drought Resilience Accelerator, will be tabled for our consideration. Mr. Chair, as we take note of these initiatives and related programs by other multilateral organizations, we emphasize the need for coherency and effective coordination. It is our considered view in the African Group that a clear, articulated, and binding global policy instrument would provide solid, synergized, and well-coordinated guidance to the Convention and parties at all levels in the implementation of these drought initiatives. we can learn from other Rio conventions that have adopted complementary policy instruments to harness collective international action and solidarity for sustainability, resource mobilization, and partnership to address marginalized issues such as drought. Mr. Chair, lastly but not least, we would like to encourage, we are greatly encouraged by the outcome of the Heads of State and Government Summit and the ministerial roundtables on the Big Dry that highlighted the seriousness of drought situations in all regions of the world. And I would like to also add that they also emphasize the need for urgent action on drought and land restoration. In this regard, we congratulate the government of Cote d'Ivoire and welcome the Abidjan call. I would like to really appreciate this as an important landmark for this COP. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, estimated delegate. Please, Syria.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. بما أنني أتحدث لأول مرة فأنني أشكر جمهورية كوت ديفوار على استضافتها لهذا المؤتمر، وأشكر أمانة الاتفاقية على التنظيم الجيد له. سيد الرئيس، تعاني الجمهورية العربية السورية من الجفاف، وتعتبر أراضي البادية السورية والتي تشكل حوالي 10.2 مليون هكتار، أي حوالي 55% من مساحة سوريا، من أكثر المناطق تعرضا للجفاف، حيث لا يتجاوز معدل الهطول المطري فيها 150 ملم سنويا. هذه البادية كانت في السابق من أفضل بوادي المنطقة، ولكن حاليا بسبب تعرضها لأشكال الجفاف والتصحر المختلفة وبدرجات مختلفة متفاوتة تدهورت مراعيها وتراجع التنوع الحيوي فيها، وازدادت مشاكل الانجراف الريحي والرمال المتحركة، وتفاقمت ظاهرة العواصف الغبارية. إن الفترات الشديدة الجفاف التي حدثت في المنطقة والتي نتجت بشكل رئيسي بسبب تغير المناخ كان لها تأثيرا سلبيا في الإنتاج الزراعي وفي الحياة الاجتماعية والاقتصادية للمجتمعات المحلية. ونحن في سوريا عانينا في العامين الماضيين من هذا الموضوع في مجال إنتاج القمح الذي انخفض إلى أقل من النصف بسبب الجفاف. السيدات والسادة، تعمل سوريا منذ انضمامها إلى الاتفاقية الدولية لمكافحة التصحر في عام 1994 لتنفيذ هذه الاتفاقية بجهودها الخاصة وبعض الجهود الدولية. ومؤخرا أعدت سوريا برنامج للعمل الوطني لتحييد آثار تدهور الأراضي، والذي تضمن مؤشرا خاصا عن الجفاف. وقمنا كذلك في عام 2020 بإعداد الاستراتيجية الوطنية لإدارة الجفاف بدعم من الأمانة الاتفاقية والآلية العالمية للاتفاقية. وتقدمنا بطلب لدعم تنفيذ المشاريع والبرامج التحويلية الخاصة بهذا البرنامج، برنامج ال LDN، والاستراتيجية أي استراتيجية الجفاف. ونحن هنا كلنا أمل بمساعدة ودعم الاتفاقية والآلية العالمية والمنظمات الدولية، وخاصة فيما يتعلق بتنفيذ الخطة الوطنية لإدارة الجفاف في سوريا. طبعا المنطقة كلها تعاني من هذه المشكلة، والتي تتضمن نشاطات في مجال الإنذار المبكر عن الجفاف والاستعداد له. وشكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you. Please, Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Quisiera compartirles que México es afectado recurrentemente por sequías. Entre las más recientes, no nombraré todas, pero de los años 2011 y 12 con sequía excepcional de más del 80% del país. En 2020 y 2021, con las condiciones además que presentamos por cuestiones de la pandemia, ustedes podrán entender que tuvimos que enfrentar condiciones severas y extremas de sequía en el 65% del territorio nacional. Hemos lanzado algunas estrategias con la Secretaría de Agricultura, nuestra Comisión Nacional de Zonas Áridas, pero también con la Secretaría de Defensa Nacional para estimular las lluvias, y tenemos experiencia para contrarrestar los efectos de la sequía en áreas estratégicas afectadas, logrando cantidades del orden de 9 millones de hectáreas. Esto tiene inclusión de cuencas altas y solamente para señalar que es necesario que empecemos a observar y planear con enfoque de cuenca. México, al igual que otros 70 países, apoyamos las iniciativas para lograr establecer los programas nacionales y nos complacemos por las nuevas iniciativas que promuevan las alianzas con otros organismos con el fin de favorecer la aplicación de los programas contra la sequía de los países miembros. México apoya que el enfoque proactivo y holístico de la gestión de los efectos de la sequía mediante la inversión en resiliencia, y apoya ampliamente y reitera lo que ha dicho ya en el tema desde hace varias conferencias, que en un futuro próximo se podría fijar una meta mundial y nacional como la que tenemos dentro de la Convención Marco de Naciones Unidas sobre Cambio Climático con relación al 1.5 grados, para apoyar la labor realizada por el UNFCCC a nivel mundial con relación a la sequía y las tormentas de arena y polvo, que los encargados de la formulación de políticas nacionales podrían traducir en compromisos políticos a nivel nacional, del mismo modo que muchos países han fijado metas de neutralización de la degradación de las tierras. Asimismo, nuestro país considera que muchos países aún siguen afectados por la sequía y necesitan apoyo debido de la comunidad internacional para fortalecer sus instituciones y la capacidad de reacción y prevención y mitigación. Por lo que apoyamos ampliamente que la Secretaría Ejecutiva y el Mecanismo Mundial, con alianzas estratégicas, puedan impartir a los países una orientación clara sobre las diferentes fuentes de financiamiento a las que podemos acceder de manera expedita a fondos internacionales y alianzas bilaterales y subregionales. Finalmente, agradecemos y reconocemos el trabajo realizado por FIDA y su continuo y decidido apoyo para el desarrollo de los proyectos para combatir las desigualdades y la pobreza rural en las zonas áridas y semiáridas de México. Tenemos grandes avances que quisiéramos compartir y por cuestiones de tiempo lo haremos durante los grupos de contacto. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, estimated delegate. Please, Saudi Arabia.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. سوف أكون مختصر في مداخلتي. نود في البداية أن أشكر السيدة رئيسة الفريق العامل والرئيس المشارك وأعضاء الفريق وأمانة الاتفاقية على التقرير والتوصيات التي تضمنها، والتي أخذت جهد كبير خلال 2.5 لإعداد هذا التقرير. ونود أن نحيطكم علما أن المملكة العربية السعودية ترى أهمية التقرير والتوصيات التي خرج بها، ونرى أن يتم دراستها من قبل الفريق العامل والعمل على الاستفادة منها خلال هذا المؤتمر والمؤتمرات القادمة لوضع سياسة عالمية فعالة للتعامل مع الجفاف أسوة بما يتم في الاتفاقيات الدولية الشقيقة الأخرى. سيد الرئيس. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, estimated delegate. Please, Argentina.
Por ser la primera vez que intervengo en este plenario, el agradecimiento al excelente recibimiento del Gobierno y del pueblo de Costa de Marfil, a la excelente organización por parte de la Secretaría y al Comité Organizador, y asimismo a ustedes, quienes están presidiendo. Felicitaciones, delegado de Guatemala. De la misma manera, señora Andrea Mesa, el saludo afectuoso en nombre de la República Argentina para ustedes, para las distinguidas autoridades, los distinguidos delegados y participantes, para cada uno de ustedes. Este informe es un informe bien logrado, venimos a felicitarlo. Y también deseamos que este informe se concrete en una estrategia, así como en la Convención de Cambio Climático, así como en la proyección que existe en el marco de la biodiversidad. Al respecto, se utiliza en este informe reiteradamente la consideración de los extremos climáticos. Esto aparece en el resumen, en el párrafo 29, y se subsume a lo largo del mismo. Entendemos que sería digno de considerarse no solo los extremos del cambio climático, sino las situaciones extremas padecidas por los suelos, incorporar ese término de emergencia y de urgencia que se vincula con el marco de Sendai y las poblaciones que lo sufren. Allí venimos a poner en resalto a las mujeres, a la participación del género y a su concepto, a las de ellos 1.120.000 kilómetros cuadrados, 1.120.000 kilómetros cuadrados que forman parte de nuestro país y que configuran una buena parte de los países europeos. Para dar un ejemplo, son tierras secas. En ese marco hay una degradación del 71% y un proceso de degradación sobre esa cantidad. Así como el corredor de América Central y también abarcado hacia el Caribe, porque los fenómenos se manifiestan de manera múltiple y se expanden como en un cuerpo biológico sobre el suelo. Asimismo, en América Latina y el Caribe padecemos el flagelo de la sequía y de la degradación de la tierra. Es por esto que la República Argentina, en ese marco y teniendo esas referencias, adoptó diversos proyectos como el que aumenta la resiliencia climática y mejora el manejo sustentable de la tierra en la provincia de Buenos Aires, en el sudoeste. Allí generó el sistema de información de alerta temprana. Trabaja con los agricultores y las familias de las pequeñas y medianas empresas en agricultura, en producción de ganado en tierras secas. Hemos contado con el apoyo del Fondo de Adaptación. Asimismo, el Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible lo ejecuta y lo implementa el Banco Mundial. Así como la República Argentina, muchos países de América Latina y el Caribe tenemos proyectos y planes. Y al respecto, es imprescindible tener en cuenta que así como un foco está puesto en la lucha contra la degradación de la tierra, en pasar de la escasez a la prosperidad, el otro tiene que ser la generosidad en la movilización de recursos. La Argentina y los países de América Latina y el Caribe estamos desarrollando enormes esfuerzos que comprometen el presupuesto nacional para luchar contra la degradación y la sequía. Y existen compromisos internacionales también en el marco del ACNUR, por la cual es preciso movilizar recursos con solidaridad y con generosidad, que son técnicos, tecnológicos, financieros, pero también son recursos destinados concretamente a la investigación científica. Con profundo agradecimiento quiero expresar la felicitación por los trabajos y por este documento, el deseo de la prosperidad para la República de Côte d'Ivoire y el éxito y el deseo de éxito para la COP15. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Estimated Minister. I see another request for the floor. With that, we have concluded the general discussion and have completed the consideration and conclusion of agenda item for the issue draw. I propose that further discussion on this item in its totality be taken up in contact group 2 in other matters. Hearing no objection, it is so decided. Distinguished delegate, this brings us to the end of our deliberation for today. Before adjourning, I would like to make some announcement.
30 minutes.
The first meeting of the Contact Group 1 on program and budget will take place in evening 30 minutes after the adjournment of this session. Met 6, please. The first meeting of the Contact Group 2 on other matters in tentative schedule take place on 12 May from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. The next meeting of the call is scheduled on Friday, Thursday, May starting 10 a.m. Please consult the daily journal for further details. This meeting is adjourned.